Welcome to Life After Dogma, exploring what life looks like when we start paying attention to the ways our beliefs shape reality. Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about systems, the ones we live our everyday lives within, especially manufactured environments, how they shape what we desire, the limits we place on ourselves, and even our sense of meaning. As an anchor point, I want to use the David Byrne film True Stories, which, if you haven't seen it, it was made in 1986, set in a fictional town in Texas, and it follows a series of loosely connected characters as the town prepares for a civic celebration. So maybe unsurprising because it's David Byrne, there's not a traditional plot. The movie moves from scene to scene, from shopping malls to workplaces, churches, streets, showing everyday life through music and conversations. The characters are sincere, eccentric, but well-meaning, and the tone is, it's not as satirical as it appears on the surface. I think he really values the humanity of the characters, but he definitely questions the environments and the systems that they live within. And that's really what makes the film interesting, where it happens and how normal it all feels. So it's less of a story and more of a guided walkthrough of a modern American town in 1986. So my takeaway from it is David Byrne was very interested in the systems around them and how those quietly shape, what the people that live within them think matters. So it's been a little while since we've watched the movie. What I remember most was how well it captured the manufactured environments of North Texas, which is where it was filmed. That's the area we both grew up in. And even though it's been 40 years, the vibe of the places in the movie still very much feels like the vibe of the Dallas area today. To me, what do you remember most from it?
Yeah, I think very similar. Since we were in Dallas, it was kind of fun to see where we grew up and to see someone that's not from here kind of like observe it in a different way. Like all the places and the things that we are just like our everyday life, to like see them being observed in like this like anthropological kind of way, like like we're like little, like it's a nature show, and like there he's
Yeah.
observing how are these Dallasites going through their
How are they
environment.
staying human in this curated world?
I know. So, but also, I mean, yeah, it was Dallas, and that's fun for us, but it could be any of the Sun Belt, or like, I mean, it could be pretty much any city. I think Sun Belt probably most relatable, because it's like uh, in the Sun Belt, all these cities are kind of unconstrained, right? We don't have like mountains or any kind of like environmental constraint around us. It's just kind of open prairie. And also, it's super hot and dry. So that makes going inside even more appealing. And going inside means more like manufactured, built, designed by a person or by people, not by nature. So it's relatable, yes, of course, to us in Dallas, but I think it's a broader. He tries to make it like broader, and I definitely took away from that like the broader points that he was trying to make about how humans are manufacturing our day-to-day experiences.
Right. And again, he really doesn't mock the people in it. I think he's just concerned about them living in these strange modern environments. And he's also interested in how they're adapting to them. And I think, it's probably why he chose the Dallas area, because it's kind of this prototype of the future American city that's unconstrained by, geographic barriers and can just sprawl out as far as it needs to. And you can kind of build whatever, the people building it can kind of build whatever what they want. And
Yeah, it's
then
like the Wild West. Like there's
it
not very
is.
many rules that go around it. Like people, if it's your property, you can plop down whatever you want, and and then the rest of the system, the rest of the community or the whatever has to accommodate that. So it's just kind of this piecemeal accommodation until you get what we have today.
Right. So it was not about quaint small town Texas, but more a look at how normal these built environments.
But it didn't feel like super metropolis type either. I mean, it's like
No, but
it still
everything's like
felt
new.
quaint and small just because
Well, the
the
people in
people
it
in it
came
made
from
it.
quaint
Yeah.
small town
Yeah, and
Texas.
also like whether you're in a quaint small place or a big city, you're still humanity. You're still people and you're just figuring out how to navigate whatever this is that you've been put into.
But I think kind of the big thing for me, the big thing that I remember the most was how surreal all of these environments start
Yeah,
to
it's
feel.
surreal, but like it's our daily life
Yeah, well,
and it still
on
felt
the
surreal.
like,
Yeah.
to the people that live within them, it just seems like normal to them. But to this anthropologist type, that
Yeah.
David Byrne is playing, who comes into it, who's trying to observe all this, it looks very strange.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, like it's normal to us because it's been normalized. Like these systems aren't something like he's definitely playing it up and like and we're going to talk about this later. Like he's aware of all of the systems whereas like when you live in it, you're no longer aware of how all of the stuff functions around you. It just becomes kind of just the backdrop of of whatever it is that you're thinking or navigating in the day.
Right. Yep. So that's the movie, but we want to really talk about this more broadly and what we can do about it once we have this awareness on how they affect how the systems that we live within, because we all live within them, how they affect us and the limitations we put on ourselves and the things that are important to us. So I think one thing that the film conveys well, and it's still true today, is systems are powerful.
Yeah, but what do we mean? First of all, like, what do we mean when we're talking about systems, right? Like,
Well, I'm
system
going
is
off
like
of
a
the ones that are in the
huge,
movie. I'm
yeah,
talking about like they talk a lot about the economic ones, the things that the town values, like jobs and growth and success, consumer systems. Like there's a whole scene shot in a shopping mall and like what a shopping mall is today. And maybe that's a little less relevant to, you know, us now 40 years later when you can buy
I don't
everything
know. We're
online.
still going to the same shopping mall that's in the movie, so
That's true. I
that's
mean, I
still
think,
like a big draw,
it,
at least in Dallas.
well, it is here. Maybe less so everywhere, but
Yeah, not as
okay.
much.
People still shop though. Civic systems are covered in the movie, and then media telling people who they're supposed to be, and I think that's probably more true than ever. So those are kind of the ones that are on my mind. Did you have other ones?
Well, I mean, those are the ones that he specifically, and I know that we have to like kind of stay within a scope, but a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about could be, I mean, once you start becoming aware of systems, you realize that there are just so many, like, especially like social and cultural like systems that we don't even notice or like patterns and different things like that that shape more than just how we spend our time. But yeah, let's like stick with this for now and then I think we can extrapolate later.
Well, that did make me think that on just taking the broad view, is it true then? Any people anywhere placed inside of any system are going to start to organize their lives around it. I think that's what he's saying in the movie for those systems. But I think what you're saying is that it applies more broadly. And I think that's right.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, until you don't even notice them or some of them start out kind of small. Like we were talking about how, how Dallas has changed, but it's so gradual. It's like that saying about like you put a frog in water and boil and it won't even know that it's being boiled kind of thing. Like it's like the change is so kind of slow and it permeates everything that you don't first it's kind of weird and then you don't even notice and then like a couple of years later or like a decade later, you're like, I don't know how to live without it. I think, oh my gosh, I think very specifically when you were telling me about Amazon Prime, we were on a walk in our neighborhood and I'm like, why would we ever need something like Amazon Prime? Like, we can just go to the store. Why would we need it delivered to us? And I was like really adamant and I was like, this sounds stupid. Like, why would we ever have it? And you're like, well, let's just give it a try. And then now, what is it, like 15, 20 years later? And like, I'm like, a lot of us are like, I don't know what life is like without delivery of goods,
Right.
but it just like slowly came in until we are totally reliant on it.
You've reorganized your life around it. Um, so I think people are really good at adapting, especially gradually over time, which they can because these systems and the way that they control us in a way is gradual, subtle. So we adapt really well to them. But like, what's the trade-off? It's not always actually beneficial to us. Or I think that's the question in the movie is like, what is the trade-off?
Yeah, and a lot of these, and he's really good about like not demonizing, I guess, for lack of a better word, the system. Like these come into place to serve a purpose for sometimes. Like I'm not saying like that the purpose is good or something. They serve a purpose to some group to make things more easier or efficient, or like there's some purpose, and then that purpose kind of then, whether it is for the smaller group, then it permeates out into the rest of the group. So it's not the system itself, it's more like how, like you said, like how do we structure our lives around it, and are we finding meaning from ourselves and from our humanity, or are we outsourcing it to something that the system is providing?
Right. And still very true today. The systems are shaping the things that we desire. We uh, we all have this concept in our heads of what normal is, and I wonder how much we question whether that, just because it's familiar, is that really how, what we prefer? Is it?
I don't think we really think about it. I know I
And I
don't.
think that's the
I
what
think
still
that's
rings
it.
true about the
Yeah.
movie even today. You know, and then value and meaning is kind of outsourced to the system to tell you what's important and what you value and
And if you hear it
how you should
enough
live
times, you
and
just
what
internalize
limitations you
it.
should place on yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, and sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you, but like you like internalize it, and once you internalize it, you stop. You don't notice it anymore. And I was just thinking too, like we humans, or me, it's so easy to get used to something that I didn't like at first. Like I'm just thinking of like even just like little things like within my home. Like I'll put something up on the wall and I'll be like, I don't really like that. And then, or like, you try to do it yourself and it turns out not that great. And you're like, oh, this is awful. Now I'm going to have to redo it. And then like you live with it for a couple of months. And then you're like, oh, it's not so bad. And then a year goes by and you don't even notice it. It's like those kinds of things where it's really easy to get used to things and stop being aware of what it is, that first feeling, that like first intuition where you're like, I don't think this is right for me. But then you just get used to it and then you just forget about it.
Yeah, I think subconsciously you're asking like, what does the system I live within tell me? And you're kind of less reliant on your own feelings and intuition and more just like on what is, what's normal. So if that's the case, and it's still true today as it was in 1986, what is the solution? How do we wake up?
Yeah. And in all transparency, we recorded this earlier this week, one time already. And it turned into, I think it was probably a little bit more of a one sided rant about just like systems, and just like there was a lot of stuff about these big abstract ideas about all these systems. And, in my mind, I get like pumped up about it and I'm just like want to burn them all down and just start over like a phoenix rising from the ashes kind of thing. Um, but then I listened to it again and I was like, that is not helpful. Like getting frustrated or angry about like whatever it is, like whatever kind of cultural or social system, or it could be, I mean, I was thinking, even, I mean, we're talking about big ones like capitalism and like the political atmosphere right now and those kind of things. I think even in like when we were talking about the movie, the cringe thing of paternalistic capitalism, that topic came up and I was just like, it's so cringe. So it's like, that's, to me, it was not helpful. I mean, it was like nice and cathartic to like vent about all of this, but then you're right. Like, what is it? Because, like we said, things kind of happen slowly. These systems came up slowly. So, what is it that we can do? It's not like me. It's not like I'm going to be this like great renegade that's going to go and, burn down our economic system or something. And I don't even know if I want to, like it's familiar. And, to lose something that is familiar is scary and it incites fear. So we don't want to go that route, right? Because I don't want to feel afraid. I want to be excited about what comes next and excited about how we can navigate this. So I just wanted to put that out there. And I think the first thing for me is just awareness, right? And just recognizing what it is in my life that is being influenced or how I'm being influenced by these systems, and not in a negative or like a feel bad way, like, oh man, I can't believe that I've been duped and I've been, conned into all of this stuff and that it's not me, because then that just creates like a whole, for me, an existential just thing where like then I start asking myself who I am and stuff. I don't think it's that. I think it's just really being aware and being conscious of how these things shape how we talk, how we interact with each other, how we interact with the system. Like, how do I interact with like the capitalist way of navigating, like providing for my family? Um, just naming it is really important to me first.
I think that's a good starting place. And I think in the movie, the takeaway really is that it's not revolution or cynicism, it's awareness that is going to wake you up, becoming that conscious observer, noticing what feels like a script, that you're playing a part and you're playing a role, and something that maybe you don't want to be a part of, or you're not sure if you do, but you don't know until you start thinking about it. But I think noticing the things that feel scripted versus the things that feel alive and authentic. Another um, part of the movie is there's a lot of eccentric characters that are quirky in their own ways, and I think that kind of shows like the humanity of the people that maintain the systems that run the town, is just kind of the humanity in it. Like those are, it's almost like their quirks are like these pressure valves that keep them from becoming like automatons or something like that. I think that that's another, I thought that was a fun one that he included in there. Of course he would, because he's eccentric.
Yeah, but you make a good point of it's really easy, like we did when we did recorded before, to get really abstract and to just forget that these systems are composed of people, of humans, of all of us having just like trying to make sense of it all and trying to find our place within these different systems that we don't know any differently, or it's a very slow change.
They have no meaning other than the meaning that we assign to them. And I think we all individually assign meaning to the systems that we live within. So I think that that's part of the awareness too. is to your point, like they're not necessarily evil, they just are. And they're the result of a lot of different ideas coming together. But still, the way that we interpret those is by assigning some meaning to them. So I think that that's one thing that I think about when trying to wrap my head around, what does awareness even mean? What does being like more conscious and how I observe the world around me even mean? I think another part of it that relates to meaning is we shouldn't try to outsource meaning to these systems. I mean, they can provide comfort and jobs and all these things that we want in our lives, but they don't provide meaning. We might think that they do, but again, that we assign the meaning.
But you're right. But I'm like struggling like outside if I'm not going to assign meaning to these like I'm thinking of like the civic or something and like I feel like me personally like look towards civic engagements and stuff to fill that kind of community meaning. But you're right, like a lot of times the civic is like a spectacle. It's not it in the end, it's I think I'm assigning meaning like it's a personal connection, like I'm having a connection with my community. But really these spectacles, I'm assigning that meaning, but they're just kind of like a
It's like a
an event.
container,
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
just a container for that meaning. The systems themselves aren't real in the same way that humans are, right? And maybe that's part of the awareness is just starting to question what is the essence that I'm really looking for in civic engagement, to use your example. Like what am I actually looking for? Well, it probably has to do with human connection, but then you bring along like all your other meaning and you have to kind of like separate like how much of that is, you know, somebody else's idea that's infiltrated into your concept of meaning from living within the system for so long versus like are you assigning that meaning to it?
I think so. Yeah, you're right. And I'm thinking of another one. Okay, I'm going to kind of go off from the civic and think of one that I've become aware of as we've been talking about this a bit is as a parent, like I am not, I'm not, I don't enjoy going to all of these like kid places, like all these indoor playscapes and all of this kind of thing. It's not fun. It's not my highest excitement. But I really feel the pressure because other families do it. And so I feel the pressure of like, oh man, well, I'm depriving my kids of something that others are getting. So I need to just like suck it up and do these things because it's for the greater good of my kid and the community and just I try and find the positives in it. And now I'm observing it and I'm realizing, you know what? That's not a system. That's not like a cultural thing that I like enjoy participating in. And now I'm wondering, am I doing my kids a disservice by being inauthentic to myself by going to these? And I'm sure that they can feel my energy when I'm there, that it's like draining and it's not exciting for me. But I go and I actually, I mean, I do genuinely enjoy the conversation with whoever we're going with, but I could have that conversation anywhere else, like at home or somewhere else. Um, so yeah, but I don't, I think um, I was thinking, I think of it as because that system is not something, or the cultural pressure or whatever it is not something that I'm excited about, or that it is something that others enjoy. I'm like, well, maybe something is wrong with me, and maybe I just need to get over myself and do it and just participate in it.
And I think that coming back to the movie, that's something that's handled pretty well because I think what's cool about the movie, especially all these years later, is that it's not advocating for becoming cynical because that's just another system. And it's not mocking the people. because that would just keep you trapped at like the surface layer. What I think it was really saying is that you don't necessarily need alternatives instead of the society that, all these systems are interconnected with. You need other types of systems alongside it. And it might be the things that you feel like are missing from those manufactured indoor children's playscapes, like art and music. And you brought up conversation as like something meaningful. Um, I don't know.
Yeah, it makes me think of okay, I'm finding it right now. So this was on a Substack, the Substack that I follow by Kristen Schelt, and she was talking about misogyny, the system of misogyny specifically. But then I think that this part that she writes is was for me, it could be relatable to any of these that we're talking about, even like my little cultural like playscape kid kind of thing, or just like feeling kind of out of place there, but still feeling like I need to participate in it. Um, so she says, and this is about kind of naming, she says, why naming the systems matter. When patterns remain unnamed, people internalize them. They conclude something is wrong with me. I'm too much. I need to be different. But when patterns are named, responsibility shifts from the individual back to the structure. Naming doesn't assign blame, it restores awareness, and awareness is where change actually begins. The most dangerous systems are not the loudest ones, they're the ones we stop noticing. Misogyny, which she says, but I think it could be any of these systems, didn't survive by being obvious. It survived by becoming familiar. And familiarity is not neutrality, it's conditioning. And that's kind of how I think I feel about kind of going along with these things, because we live in such a diverse world with so many, like you said, so many different quirky people and everything, that I think some of these systems just try and shoehorn us into a spot, and we feel the pressure to. But you're right, there are so many other options because we're so diverse that we shouldn't feel like we have to be shoehorned in. Like if something doesn't resonate with you and if something doesn't feel that way, then you shouldn't feel like, oh, I'm like me. I'm like, oh, my kids are missing out on this like great experience that they probably won't even remember. No, I should just say, you know what? I'm going to be authentic within this system, and I'm going to, step back and step away from this part, but I'm going to engage in the parts that feel authentic for me. And I'm going to engage in the systems the way that work for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that gives you kind of some self sovereignty, is the word that come into mind. Just you are back in the driver's seat. You're no longer the meaning is no longer coming to you from the system. It's no longer, you're not letting it define your identity, and it gives you some um, I think it's alignment with what is important to you internally. And that's really where the center should be, right? That's what we should be doing, is sourcing the meaning from within. I think we've gotten to that point. What we haven't talked about though yet is, if you start doing that and I start doing that and everybody starts doing that, that starts to reorganize the reality around us.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
Yeah, we no longer give the power to the systems and the whatever it is that's driving the driving force that we don't agree with anymore and we don't accept, or we never agreed with in the first place. We say, I'm now aware of you and I don't want to participate. And then when enough people don't participate, that system no longer serves a purpose, right? But we have to all be aware of it in order for it to not serve a purpose. We have to be aware of how entrenched it is in our everyday life. And I think it's like so many, like he's talking, and it's very helpful to keep it very like material, like his is very material of like those. But I mean, like, oh, think of like how many like racial systems, Kristen was talking about, misogyny, like all of these different things that are very subtle, but they're systems. They're all there in place. They served a purpose for a group of people at some point, and then they just kind of stayed because they're so subtle, and they just kind of stay in there until we observe and we are aware, oh, these things that I'm saying, maybe I didn't realize before, but they carry a lot of weight. And I think of what is that, the four agreements or the five agreements, or I can't remember what the book was because whatever, but he says like your words are immaculate and they like cast spells, right? Because the things that you say and what you put your focus on is what becomes your reality. So if you don't put your focus on those things, and if you come from an authentic place and you're like, that doesn't feel right to me, I'm not going to participate. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to tell everybody else, like, you can't be this way. I have to just like lead by example and step away and be like, that's not authentic to me. That is not, I don't agree with that. And you lead by example, and you have, your words are immaculate.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. So I think what we can take away is, once you become aware, then you can find the meaning from within yourself that spreads to the people around you, spreads to the people around them.
We empower each other to be authentic and come from an authentic place.
Yeah.
And then the power that we were giving those systems suddenly starts to fade.
And then we have a shift to a different frequency, and we've all of a sudden reorganized our reality as we experience it.
Ooh, a fun thing we were thinking about, kind of a little experiment to leave with, is I was talking about how like we would reorganize, or maybe like old systems would be replaced with new ones. And Brian, you were like, why do we need systems? Like what would the world be like without systems? And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know, because that's all I know. That's like humanity has organized itself around that for so long. It sounds like it would be chaotic, but I don't know what it would be like. So a fun visioning, I'm not going to do it like right now, but like a fun visioning for all of us, or whoever wants to, is like thinking even bigger. Like what could these, once these systems finally are dissolved and are no longer serving us, or weren't serving us in the first place, are no longer in our world, what does it replace it? Is it another system, or is it something that we haven't even thought of yet that's like even more exciting to try?
That's a good one. And on that note, to wrap it up for today.
Sounds good. Thanks. Bye.